Hey, welcome back, everyone. It's 1:18 right now, and who doesn't love Gene and Georgetti? It's an iconic steakhouse here in the city. Fantastic food, and who wouldn't want it to be like everywhere they could be? But apparently, a partnership to actually take it out to Midway Airport is experiencing some snags. In fact, it's led to legal action. I want to go ahead and bring in Michelle Durpetti, the third-generation principal of Gene and Georgetti, to tell us more about what's going on. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Tell me about your connection to Gene and Georgetti.
So I am actually the third generation managing partner of the restaurant. So Gene was my maternal grandfather. He's my mom's dad. And he started the restaurant in 1941 with his dear friend and partner, Georgetti, whose name was actually Alfredo, but his nickname was Georgetti. And they ran it together until 1969. Then when Georgetti passed away, Gene ran it on his own until 1989, at which time, upon his death, my parents actually purchased it from my grandmother, Ida, who was Gene's widow at the time, to keep it in the family. And it's been in my family that entire time. So like I said, I'm the third generation and the first woman in the family to be the owner-operator.
You go, girl. I love it. It's a beautiful family story, and it is an honor to speak with you today, although I wish you were under better circumstances. So
you and me both.
Yeah. So what's going on? You all were in talks to go out to Midway Airport in a type of way. Tell me more.
So actually, no. So it's kind of a longer story than that. So about 5 years ago, even maybe before that, let's say about 7 years ago, somewhere between like 2016 and like 2018, prior to my being in the role of managing partner, a concessionaire approached us about a licensing agreement. So for those of you that don't know, a concessionaire is basically a company that takes a combination of nationally recognized commercial brands and very local, beloved independent brands and combines them in proposals that they pitch to airports to be able to provide the food and beverage that you see at airports. So that's what a concessionaire does. It happens like in stadiums, airports, places like that. And so we were approached by SSP as an independent, very beloved Chicago brand to be part of their bid to get the business, which was the revitalization of Midway at the time. And they came after us, very aggressively, say we were very romanced at the time. My father was in charge at that time, and we had a different managing partner as well. Like I said, I didn't have this role. And we ultimately negotiated a contract that included us providing our recipes, menu, operational know-how, branding, basically insights on the construction of the project, what it would look like, what it's going to taste like, sound like, feel like, all of that. And then in exchange for all of that brand equity and know-how and knowledge and sort of Chicago status, for lack of a better way to put it, they then manage the property in the airport, they manage the concept, and we get a percentage of sales. And so that's how it started.
So if we were to see it in Midway, would it have you all's name on it?
So the concept is called Gene's Bistro. And during COVID is when the concept opened. If you want me to take you a little bit through like how we got to now, like in 30 seconds or less. Yeah. So essentially what happened was this. Throughout the contract, so we were approached during COVID and they basically said to us, look, you're the biggest property, you're the biggest piece that we have in this bid that we've now won. You're the largest restaurant and you're also the most finished construction wise. So we'd like to open you. We said, great, and they said it's COVID. Now keep in mind, this is a global publicly traded company. So they are very much Goliath in this illustration that I'm kind of sketching for you. Okay. They come to us, an independent restaurant at the height of COVID, when, as you know, all restaurants were sort of going off a cliff. Who wasn't really, right? And they're like, listen, we want to open this concept, but we need three things. We're going to need you to abate the first year that you would be receiving payments. We don't want you to receive those because we want to keep them. We're going to need to talk about that upfront licensing fee. We'd like to see that go away. And by the way, the menu that the contract required you as Gene and Georgetti to create, we'd really like to not use that and use something that's in the commissary kitchen so we can get up and running. We said yes, because we wanted to be a good partner. Okay? So throughout these last 5 years, the property, the location is basically run like that. And we've noticed that there were some obligations that just weren't being met. And ultimately in October of last year, a lot of this came to a head because we were notified that they were then terminating the agreement. And the reason I'm here today is because as an independent restaurant, you sign an agreement like this with a concessionaire with the hope of growing your business, right? You don't sign it realizing that there's going to be some massive exchange of power and that you're going to be very marginalized pretty much throughout the process, especially if something better comes along. And that's kind of what brings us here today.
They felt like something better than Gina and Georgetti came around?
Well, I mean, you and I might have different opinions about that, and I'm no expert, right? And I'm not a political expert, and I'm not an airport expert. I'm just a family-run, owner-operated restaurant sort of expert, right? What I can tell you is this: the timing of it all was very interesting. In October, for example, you might remember all of that hullabaloo with regards to what may be going in the space instead of us, right? We know, for example, that Bally's Casino is in Chicago. We know that they have always had conversations and expressed interest in potentially pursuing something in the airport. Here's us with this full disclosure, a clause in the contract that should have been negotiated out and wasn't on either party that allowed them to terminate without cause. So this wasn't about lack of sales or anything like that. And here we are. And throughout this process, right, now we get to that point, but in those 5 years, we experienced like us asking questions, say about, I don't know, sales reports, because we get a percentage of sales, but do we know if that's correct? Don't know, because we didn't get a response when we asked for sales reports. Anytime we'd want to communicate something, hey, how's the menu going? Can we maybe go back to the menu we wanted? No response. So very marginalized, very sort of put on the back burner while they just ran the concept until potentially something more interesting came along.
Gotcha. And this was supposed to be a 20-year agreement?
Correct. 20 years, so we were 5 years into a 20-year deal. And at the onset of us speaking today, when I mentioned those 3 concessions, one of the big things that they told us when they asked us for those 3 favors was, don't worry, this is a long-term agreement. You have 20 years. In some form or another, that will come back because you're going to be here a long time. None of us are going anywhere. And there was this constant promise of the longevity of the relationship. So we should concede to these 3 favors, essentially, that they were asking, because the relationship was long-term and we would have nothing to worry about.
Okay, so the legal action.
Yes.
When did you all file, and what are you hoping comes from it?
So we filed, I believe it was Monday at like 9:11 a.m. was officially when it filed. And I think, you know, we brought, as Gina Georgetti, and as all independent restaurants do in these scenarios, enormous value to this project. The restaurant provided recipes, menus, expertise, operational guidance, branding, goodwill, and just decades of reputation to help them win this bid. Okay? They then win the bid, and then we're discounted. And I think the reason I'm doing this is I want that story told. Right now, again, talking about timing, one of the most interesting things is that one of the largest, if not the largest, airport revitalization project, like in the history of ever, is happening right here in Chicago with O'Hare. And from what we know, any day now, they could release initial, I think, winners of some, like bid winners of some of these terminals or something. Some of the business might get announced who's won it. And I just thought, you know, it's really important, given the fact that SSP was not transparent, given the fact that they did not provide financial reporting, they didn't really collaborate at all, let alone in like with good intentions. Given all of that, I really wanted the story told because there's probably other independent restaurants out there in Chicago and beyond that have partnered with this brand, and they should be aware at how quickly the exchange of like power and how quickly that marginalization can happen. I think it's really important to tell that story.
Have you heard at all from this company? I mean, have they tried to explain this at all to you all?
No. And for the record, since October, we made every effort. No one wants to file a lawsuit. Nobody wants to be sitting in my shoes right now. I don't want to be sitting in my shoes, but I'm sitting here because it's that important. And I think at the end of the day, you know, when a company uses your name, your legacy, your reputation to win a major bit of business and promises a long-term partnership and then sort of just walks away without even considering you, I think you need to stand up and speak for yourself. We've tried multiple times to get them to come to the table through diplomatic channels, direct requests, and it was basically ignored every time. And so we really were left with no other choice but to file in this way and to really address the breaches of contract and the misrepresentation, the fact that we've given trade secrets, and the fact that the concept is still running even after we were notified that they were terminating. All of that needed to be public, and it needs to be a conversation, and we were tired of being ignored.
Are you asking them to change the name on the business now?
So again, I'm not an airport expert, and I know there's a process to how all of that works when they rebrand a concept. So what I can tell you is what we would have loved is to have had a face-to-face where we come, to a table. And my dad used to always say, reasonable people come to reasonable solutions. Right now, I'm doubting whether or not this organization is reasonable, which is why we filed this lawsuit, because we now want legally to have the conversation. And eventually, I'm hoping for a conclusion. It's all sort of listed in the complaint. We don't know that moving forward continued as is the right move for us personally. I mean, the only thing you have in life is your reputation. And so for us, we have to protect the brand. So yeah, I think at this point, it's safe to say we'd rather not move forward, but that doesn't mean we don't want to have a conversation with them. And it doesn't mean that there aren't some things we need to work out first.
And you mentioned, all of the development that's happening out at O'Hare, being stuck or trying to figure out this 20-year agreement, the 15 years that are left on it. Would you all have been trying to make a bid for O'Hare if it weren't for being held up in this?
So the interesting answer to that question is we do have some involvement at O'Hare with a different concessionaire because we learned from our mistakes.
All right. Okay. Very interesting. Well, please keep us up to date on where things go with this.
Absolutely. Thanks for the chance to tell the story.
Absolutely. Hate that this is a part of the story.
Thank you.
But it seems like, in 85 years, your restaurant, your family has weathered many storms. So I'm sure there will be some light at the end of this tunnel as well.
Yeah. We hope so too. And again, it's because of the city that we're loving us so much that we're able to have the support we have to tell these stories. So thank you for letting us do it. And we can't thank our customers enough, and our team who always support everything that we do.
Wonderful speaking with you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Take care.